Good evening, everybody.
Good evening.
Good evening, everybody.
Good evening.
Yes, as Hope said, this is actually a celebration, so I want to enjoy that celebratory energy. Today is a very significant milestone in our community's long struggle for truth, for accountability, for justice, for peace, and for healing. And I want to honor that by expressing that there is still grief in the room today, because the matters that bring us here are serious things. There's serious harm that has happened, there's a lot of pain, there is a lot of trauma, and that brings grief. So I want to honor that. And I also want to honor our community's resistance, our fighting spirit. It's intergenerational, it's been hundreds of years, and that power is here with us today. It has powered our journey to get here, and I want to just deeply acknowledge that. It's hard though to hold those two things at the same time, and I reflect that a lot of our community's experience is in this binary between those two spaces of grief and then joy. I want us to have more spaces for just joy, just for celebration, and that's part of what I hope Harm to Healing can create for us. There are some important things to say tonight. I want to start by dedicating this evening and the work of Harm to Healing to some important people. Firstly, to everybody who has been impacted somehow by racialized criminalization. We want to dedicate this to the people who sadly have lost their lives, whose lives have been stolen actually by our state, by police, by the prison system, in mental health detention, immigration detention. There are too many names to list, and it's important that we honor them. Many of their loved ones are here in the room with us tonight, and we also honor the loved ones. I particularly wanted to lift up a young man named Adrian McDonald. Today is his birthday, and he would have been celebrating his birthday, and his mother's here with us, so I just want us to really honor Adrian. That's really important. Adrian would have been with us, but he was killed by the police in Huddersfield in a very horrendous way, like many of our loved ones who've been taken. He was tasered, he was bitten by a dog several times, and there was still no justice. And I say that because I want you to understand the depth of the horror that experiences people and their families who have to then go through 10, 20, 30-year processes to try and get justice. And unfortunately, in this system to date, we haven't received it for anyone. There's not been a successful murder prosecution of any police officer in this country. We got close recently with Chris Kaba, but we still didn't get justice. It's important to honor those things. It's important for us to honor all of our loved ones that are currently incarcerated. There's too many, there's thousands of people, and the experiences they're having from our young people who make up almost half of the youth prison system. And that is cradle to casket, this impact of these harms. Prisons don't just affect the people that are inside, they affect all of the people that love them, that have to navigate that system. That's mothers and fathers, brothers and sisters, aunties, uncles, cousins, friends, chosen family, all the loved ones, grandparents, children who have to grow up with their parents being incarcerated and navigating that system. So we're honoring all of those people. Many are with us in the room tonight. We're also dedicating this to our elders, to our ancestors who fought our long struggle that allowed us to be here today, living the lives that we do live. Despite the circumstances, we appreciate that things have come forward, and that gives us hope and courage that we can continue to take them forward. So we honor all the work that's happened. Harm to Healing is an intergenerational organization, so we are blessed to organize alongside many of our elders. So many of those in the room tonight, we honor you and thank you. And we also dedicate this to our youth, to the youthful spirit of resistance, for their courage, for their energy, for their just refusal, their acknowledgement that something ain't right, and they're just not willing to have it or accept it. They're not going to be boxed in, and we take that spirit and courage into the work that we're doing as well, because they deserve a future that doesn't mean injustice. And for those that are still to come, we dedicate this to you, the ones who are not even born yet, because we're going to create a world that they can inhabit, where healing is prioritized over harm. So that's a beautiful vision, but I wanted to dedicate all of those people. That is the core of why we're doing this. There's some other harms I felt it was important to acknowledge from my own personal story and point of view as to why this work is so urgent and why now. I was only 15 when my friend was shot and killed a month before his 18th birthday, Marvin Henry. And I was on a train the next day, and I was looking at the Evening Standard where his face was on the front cover, and he was labeled as a gang member within 24 hours. And I watched a woman just turn the page. That was the first time I experienced that dehumanization of that label. We know there are many young people who are being labeled in that way, and many of them are in prison today as a result of that, for things that they haven't done. There was a time, a number of years ago, where I went to visit a friend who was on trial for murder, somebody that had been at my school, another case of joint enterprise. And trying to search for the court in the Old Bailey, I was reading the listings, and to my surprise, there were 3 different young people from my school in that court on 3 separate trials for 3 separate murders. And I felt, I'm the only person in this situation that can see this on this day, and it just felt so wrong. The first time I saw a young man was that day. He was only 14, being sentenced to longer than he's been alive for something that he hadn't done. I knew then that the idea of young people being in prison wasn't right. His feet could barely touch the floor in the court. And then 3 years ago, 2023, I was at the Old Bailey again, and a number of young people from our community at Forefront were on another trial for joint enterprise. Many of them had been on remand for 2+ years now because of the delays from COVID. And they were waiting for this trial for so long, but on this particular day, the middle of their trial was adjourned because that courtroom was needed. And it was needed because Martin Blake, the officer who killed Chris Kaba, was having his charge hearing, and they didn't want him to spend a second in prison. And so they had to expedite to make a court available so that he could have a really quick hearing. And in that moment, I saw courtroom 12, these young people from my community, 2 years of their life already taken, to be whisked away and wait longer, more time in prison, so that this person, this man, Martin Blake, could be free. There's so much harm that I've seen, and I know, looking around the room, many of you, it resonates because you've seen these kind of harms too. But I'm grateful to say I've had the privilege to see so much joy and healing in doing this work, and what I've witnessed in my community is some of the most powerful things that I think exist on this planet. I've seen Love Circle taking place for a young person that was about to go to prison, where more than 30 of us gathered around and told them all the reasons why we loved them. And it was a giddy energy. These were young people, teenagers, telling each other that they loved each other. And it was a very beautiful sight to see the young people that you would usually see in the papers being labeled in some kind of way, expressing intimacy and acknowledging a milestone for someone. I've seen love circles for people whose loved ones have been killed, honoring their grief. I've seen the beautiful memorials that we do together to honor those lives that have been lost. I've seen our parties, I've seen us candy, I've seen the celebrations and the birthdays and the intergenerational love that we have and can express. And I've also seen another view of an intergenerational healing practice where a mother who did lose their son was embraced by more than 30 community members in the biggest hug I've ever seen or experienced in my life. And it was a really, really beautiful experience. We've had retreats, we've had gatherings to honor, we've had sound baths, we've had meditations, and we've had rage, we've had our protests, but that we feel good in doing it because we know we're standing up for what's right. There's a lot that has been built, There's responses to mental health crisis that have taken whole communities to orchestrate. No police and no state involved. This happens every day in communities. And this didn't start with us or today. This has been happening for generations. That's the work that we're honoring today with Harm to Healing. We're saying that this is about growing what already exists. What it could become is the vision at scale. What would it be like if our communities could access that at scale? And that's what we really want to achieve. And it's important to say a lot of money is invested in those harms that I laid out. Billions of pounds, actually, each year. And we come with a simple demand. Let's invest that same amount of resource in our healing, and we'll see what our communities can do. We'll see the transformation that will come. It's simple. It's simple. There's a lot of history that will be honored today about the journey of Harm to Healing. This is just some of the genesis of what has brought us together. The urgency of it hasn't faded, and yet there's a new determination, there's a new drive, and more importantly than anything, there's a new hope. I felt it with the people in Harm to Healing already, the members, and I feel it also in this room. Just us expressing that this event was taking place, such an outpouring of support, of love, of people wanting to help and wanting to be part of something, because it is powerful. We know fear is what drives a lot of the hate and harm that we see outside, but we know love and connection and hope is what drives our communities, and that's what Harm to Healing is about. So thank you so much for taking the time to come and be a part of it, and just wait and see all that we will build together. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Temi. We appreciate you. Hi everyone, I'm Shanae. I'm a steward of Harm to Healing. And it's a real blessing and honor to be with you, here with you today. I've had the absolute privilege of working alongside the most amazing people over the last 2 years. And Patrick's gonna tell us a bit more about what we've been doing in the seed phase of Harm to Healing. But to be here, finally, launching it to the world is just such a blessing, and I just wanted to share that with you. I'm gonna do a little something. At the end of the evening, we're gonna invite you to be a part of this movement. But because you're in the room, I'm just letting you know you're involved now, like you're involved. So you're part of the movement. So I'm gonna invite you to do a bit of a call and response. As I read out our mission, I want you to read it back to me. Our mission is to grow. An ecosystem that builds power.
An ecosystem that builds power
For communities impacted. By racialized criminalization. To create systems of healing, safety, and justice. And our vision is for a future. Beyond racialized criminalization. Where communities are safe. Free. And thriving. Through care. Repair. Collective well-being. And community power. That's right. Thank you for joining me in that practice. I hope you felt powerful as you said it, because this is community power. Us being in this space today to gather, to organize, this is what we're about. And I'm going to tell you a bit more about Harm to Healing right now. And I'm going to start off by grounding what Harm to Healing is really here to do in strengthening the transformative justice movement and the healing justice movement in this country and beyond. And when we're talking about transformative justice, we're really thinking about alternatives to the current system that we have today. We're really asking the question of how can we respond to harm without creating more harm? How do we create systems that really center accountability and repair, but uplift safety and justice and healing? Not harm, not punishment, not dehumanization, not violence, not murder. We want that justice, we want that care, we want that healing. And when we're talking about healing justice, we're really thinking about how, as a community, we've experienced so much trauma. And when we're acknowledging that intergenerational trauma, we really need to acknowledge the intergenerational healing that has to happen. How we heal those emotional, the mental, the spiritual wounds, and how we really place that at the heart of our movement building. In order to be sustainable, in order to resist, we need to be well, we need to heal. But we recognize that we can't fully heal if we don't resist the systems that are harming us. But in order for us to really be together, to movement build, and to, organize in a way that feels the joy, the healing, the care, we deserve that. It's our birthright. Getting a bit emotional right now. So what do? At Harm to Healing, we want to support community members and organizations, some of who are in the room today. We want to resource community solutions and shared infrastructure. We want to develop and advocate for harm to healing approaches that really move society from harm to healing. We really want to shift the narratives around justice and safety and how we understand those concepts. And we really want to do that by strengthening our community leadership. Again, some of our members are in the room. We'll talk a bit about membership in a second. We want to connect and invest in people and organizations, and we've been doing that to date, and we want to continue to build on that. We want to support our healing and sustainability. That's really, really important. We want to resource community-led initiatives and projects and all of these ideas and imaginings that, again, we're going to speak about in a minute. We want to build that shared infrastructure, and as I said, we really want to shift the narratives around justice and safety and how we understand and practice those concepts in our community. And so, a bit more about Harm to Healing. We are community-led. We are a community benefit society. And so we are trying to build more democratic processes within our collective. We have a membership, an amazing membership. Some of who in the room today, make some noise, members. Woo! Love you all dearly. And we're building our processes, and our membership is made up of impacted people, organizations who have already been doing the work on the front line. And we've been working together over the last few years to really seed what Harm to Healing is today. And I'm going to hand over to Patrick, who's going to tell us a bit more about the last 2 years and our seed phase. Welcome, Patrick.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Do I need a microphone? It's my absolute honour to be on the stage and to introduce myself as a steward for Harm to Healing. I want to start by acknowledging a quote that was given to us on one of our seed, as part of the seed phase. Where's Brother Stephen? He reminded us once in a session that they tried to bury us. Little did they know that we were seeds. And it's in that space and in that spirit that we engage on this path and this journey from harm to healing. But there were a number of fundamental questions that we had to tackle and address as part of that process. And I just want to name them. How can we heal our communities? What will it take to move beyond criminalisation? What will real safety and justice look like for our communities? What infrastructures of care need to exist? They were the fundamental questions that we embarked on as part of our seed phase. It was a 2-year process, 2 years. And sometimes we can look around and begin to think, well, they could have done that a bit quicker. But we were intentional in our process. We were intentional in building those relationships that were critical to building a movement. So essentially, we took that time to begin to engage, to begin to connect, to begin to align on values and the mission that Shanae has just spoken to. But we started the process carefully. And we were honoured, absolutely honoured, to be guided by 5 key organisations at that time. They are Account, the Forefront Project, United Families Friends Campaign, UFFC. There was also Unjust. And finally, there was, why am I looking anxious and nervous? And the final organisation was, have I been through them all? Tottenham Rights. Brother Stafford Scott. And there's something really important in acknowledging those individuals, organisations who for decades have been engaged in campaigns, supporting family members who've been harmed by the criminal legal system and the criminalisation system. Individuals from whom we could learn and connect and to draw inspiration from. That was the focus of our seed phase. But also by design, it was essential that rather than drawing people from the everyday work, we created spaces within which we could come together. So we went to Devon. Marcy, you love a retreat. You love a retreat, sauna. We ended up in Derbyshire, didn't we? Yorkshire. We sat around the table, we broke bread. We held one another. We cried together. We danced together. We laughed together. We intentionally took that space out so we could begin to align on values, begin to think on strategy. How will we move from harm to healing? That was the crux of the work. That was the focus of the work. And then from June 2025, we then gradually began to move out, began to invite in individuals who had been impacted by the criminal legal system, by the criminalisation system. Individuals who we wanted to share stories with, who we want to shape and build solutions going forward. One of the key values of our organisation, Harm to Healing, is that those who have been harmed already have the solutions. They know how we should be responding to the harms of the criminalisation system. They therefore should lead our work. We do not take policies and should not take policies from above. It should be guided by those who have been affected by that system. That becomes key to us. It's essential to the work going forward. We're now in a position where we've now set up the BENCO. We now have 30 members. I'm now looking around the room and I can see many more members. Essentially, this is what this evening is about. This is what this space is about. It's how we begin to build the power of communities and how we begin to imagine and build an ecosystem of care, safety, and justice. Are you coming?
Yes.
Are you coming?
Yes.
Are you coming?
Yes.
Come on then. Okay, come on then. What I'm going to do is I'm going to hand over to Sarah, who will now pick this up, and we'll have a short conversation to follow on from the seed phase. And most importantly, what emerged from the seed phase was our beautiful blueprint. So what we're going to do is take some time, build a panel, and Sarah will facilitate a conversation about the journey of that blueprint. Yep.
Hello, everyone.
Sarah.
Hello. It is such a pleasure to be here with you today. We are not only celebrating the launch of Harm to Healing as an organisation, but we are also gathered here today to celebrate the launch of our blueprint. Now, our blueprint is a framework for building systems of healing, safety, and justice beyond racialised criminalisation. It brings together the ideas, the priorities, and the visions of the early stages of the seed phase. And it's been shaped by many people in this room, but also looking beyond this room, we build upon a legacy of people who've come before us, shaping visions for change. And we're really proud to be able to be here with you today to share this blueprint and the next stages for it. I also wanted to share that for me personally, when I think about the blueprint, I really think about hope. And I feel like the culmination of all the work and the efforts of community organising that have got us to this point today, and I think it's really important to situate it in that context. In a moment, we're going to move to a panel discussion where we're going to hear some more from some of the members in this room who've helped shape the blueprint. But first, I wonder if the other members in the audience would like to stand up or raise your hand so we can make some noise for you, because without your work and your efforts, this blueprint wouldn't have been possible. Woo! Brilliant. Okay, so we're now going to move to a bit of a panel discussion where we're going to hear from some of our members in a bit more depth about what the blueprint means to them, why it's so important. So I'm really pleased to be able to welcome to the stage Busayo, Sarah, Hope, and Timmy. Now, thank you all so much for joining us. It means so much to be here, and it feels like such a milestone actually to get to this point where we're like sharing this out in the world as well. We have a few questions that we're going to go through, but first I wonder if we could start with some introductions. If you'd like to introduce yourself and maybe to ground us in hope. I feel like hope is so key to what this blueprint means to us. If you'd like to share something that gives you hope.
Something that gives me hope is our capacity to change and transform and to grow and to evolve. And one idea that just came to my mind as I looked at someone very special in the room is being able to witness people's growth over time and seeing their leadership evolve is a really, really beautiful experience. So I'm just proud of us. I'm proud of all the growth that we can have.
Thank you. Hi, I'm Hope, and I think that one of the things that makes me feel hopeful about the future is interactions that I have with people like day to day, small human interactions. I feel like a lot of the time in the media and on social media, we're kind of encouraged to see each other as like not aligned, or that, you know, everyone hates each other and everyone's finding ways to complain. And actually, I think I have small interactions with someone on the tube and someone gives someone else a seat, or, you know, you see someone with a buggy and someone has to help them get on. These small interactions that we have with people in our community that shows that deep down I believe people really care about each other and really do want to help each other in small ways. And I think the work we're trying to do is amplifying that because we have that capacity. So yeah, these small everyday interactions give me hope.
Hi, I'm Sarah Baffo. What's been giving me hope is the power in our communities and the ability to refuse the system to shrink that and take that away. And we see it with Harm to Healing, is the power to organize, the power to be joyful, the power to resist. So that's been giving me hope. In a world that like literal roots of like oppression is to say that actually we're not powerful, and our communities for decades and centuries have said actually we are powerful and we are gonna win. So that's giving me hope.
My name is Busayo. What gives me hope is, I know it sounds cliche, but just every day you wake up, it means something can be done, and we get to decide what that's going to be. So for me, it's more like the obligation of waking up. You know what I mean? How do you give thanks to that 24 hours that we start with and not everyone finishes with? So that's what gives me hope, really.
Thank you so much. I feel like that really grounds us in our purpose for today. So the first question is, what is the purpose of the Harm to Healing Blueprint, and why is this important for our communities right now? And I don't know if you want to take it one by one, going along.
A blueprint. A blueprint means how we're going to build something, essentially. How we're going to build it is the process. I think for so long in our communities, there's been so much beautiful work that's been taking place, both to resist the racism, resist the systemic harm that we've been seeing, and experiencing, but also to grow healing alternatives, to grow community infrastructure for health and for life-affirming services and supports. And all of this work is taking shape across the country, across generations. That is really beautiful. At the same time, we're faced with still a battle ahead that our society, the narrative is that we need these systems of harm to keep us safe. Of course, those of us that have experienced those harms know these aren't the systems that keep us safe, but some people feel reassured that these systems are keeping society safe. So there's some work to do to share what our communities have been building for real safety. It's not safe if not everyone is kept safe. It's not safe if the police are over in our communities criminalizing some young people, some communities, but then everybody else doesn't actually experience policing at all because they just never see the police when we see them every day on our doorstep. It's a very different experience. So we know we're living in a society that's skewed in that way, and yet how do we bring together a transition plan almost? It's not that the ideas of imagination of what we need, the infrastructure we need and what our communities can build, it's not that it doesn't exist, it is there, and also it's about how we're going to scale it. And so what we wanted to do is actually write it down, because it's not written enough to say, here's some of the things we imagine. We come together and talk amongst ourselves about the kind of things that we need, and we've been campaigning across, this is what families who've been impacted by state violence need. This is what young people who've been impacted by criminalization need. This is what we can do about strip search. This is what we can do about gangs. This is about joint enterprise. It's all scattered, and yet we're saying, what can we do for our communities impacted by racialized criminalization as a whole, all those systems? And we've had some beautiful imaginings, so we've put them together to share, to build hope for other people, to say, we can build this, not just what Harm to Healing will build, what everyone can be part of building, because it's not just going to be Harm to Healing, it needs to be an effort that's very collective and spread out. So that's why we need the blueprint.
I think, bringing this blueprint together, it took time, but I think as we were writing it and bringing it together, the purpose of it came clearer and clearer. And I think, like Tommy said, lots of the things that are in the blueprint are things that we talk about every day and are conversations that people have all the time, but it's really important to document them because it's important, even for the future, to have these things documented, because I think I've learned so much from documentation that, revolutionaries made in the past, they wrote things down and we learned from that, and I think it's important to do that. But I think also for the present, why this blueprint feels so important is that actually it's a roadmap of how we get from now, it's the start of a roadmap of how we get from where we are to a liberated future, and it's got lots of stages along the way, because I think it's easy to either feel stuck in the now and feel like we're fighting such huge beasts that actually is too big and that it's too big to take on at once. And I know I often feel that. I feel that we're going up against institutions that have so much money and resource and power and hatred, and we're fighting that in our communities with very little resource but a lot of hope and love. And I think it's often hard to feel like you stand a chance against that, but actually breaking it down to look at what we can do today, what we can do tomorrow, and what we can do in the future, and how all of us have a role in that is really helpful, because it is hopeful. And like I said earlier, it's really heavy, and the battles we're facing are really heavy. And we're talking about our loved ones and community members and people whose lives have been taken either through the prison system, through the immigration system, through being killed by policing in mental health institutions. These are not light topics, and yet we have to find ways to make the future seem appealing and seem like we can do this work in a way it's sustained and actually slightly joyful, because otherwise we're not going to get to that future where things don't happen. So a lot of the things that we're talking about in the blueprint are, we're talking about, building community centers, we're talking about well-being spaces, we're talking about support for young people, we're talking about loads of different institutions and systems we can build that take all of us in different ways, but also really joyful and hopeful, and making that work seem doable, and also making everyone be able to identify themselves in that work is how we build those stages and how we build to ultimately fight these big beasts. We don't do it by just doing one big action. We do it by lots of small actions, and these small actions are also really big in their own ways, but they kind of build towards this bigger mission. So I think even for me, as we were going through the process of putting it together and listening to people and reflecting, a lot of that work was around actually just documenting those small things that people are already doing and just need more resource to do, or people can see and believe in but just haven't got the opportunity to build it. So it made me feel hopeful, but also was a reason why I feel like this blueprint is really important to be taken out in the world to action those small things.
Just to echo what has been said, the blueprint is an offering and also is a commitment. It's an offering to like the community to say actually that there is alternatives to these violent systems. There is alternative to racialized criminalization in the prison industrial complex and also in schooling, also in other punitive systems. So it's this offering to be like, actually we're doing it. A lot of times when we think about like liberation and justice and freedom, we're thinking of it in the future rather than being actually we're doing it now. And actually it's a commitment to each other to be like, we're not individuals, like the system banks on us being individuals and also to be isolated and also to suffer in silence. But actually we're gonna be like, we're grieving, and the blueprint was that, the retreats was that actually we're gonna grieve together, we're gonna come together as a community, and also we're gonna have community solutions, and it's for and by us. I think that was beautiful about the blueprint in creating it, and similar to what Hope said, it's also this archival process. It's like, actually we're archiving as an act of resistance, like this idea of like, we're not gonna allow them to tell our stories. We're also not going to allow them when we do break the chains and we do get when we get liberated, that they're not going to tell our stories. Like they're not going to say, oh, actually we wasn't that bad, we wasn't the belly of the beast. But actually, we actually ended up getting rid of these violent systems and started rooting it back into like healing, into care, into joy, amongst it. So every time I think about the blueprint, it's a document, but also when you read it, it's a commitment. It's like this idea of like when you bear witness, like you bear witness to the words of like our elders, the young people, the people who are inside prisons, and then when you bear witness, you also have to act. So yeah, when you're reading the document, it's about like actually what is your role in harm to healing. So that's the blueprint. So it's like an offering and a commitment to each other.
Yeah, well, everything's been said. Like that's what it is. I don't want to say something that's already been said, but I think one of the most important things was some of the early work that we did together, even to get to know each other and stuff, was bringing everyone into the room. So whether you knew it or not, your stories were part of us developing this, and how we honor your stories was really important to us. So it's very much it's like a service to the people that, you know, we have never met and people that we know as well. So that's one of the things I feel like the blueprint is as well. It's kind of like, it's hard work. It really is hard work. But I think another thing that's important is we don't want to be defined by the harms that have shaped a lot of our community's perception, right? So it's a way of kind of stretching and molding that identity into something that isn't defined by the darkness and the negative things. It's easy for us to say this is what the negative things that have happened. We can see it. We've had the language for it for centuries, but it's a lot more difficult to decide where do you want to take that pain? What do you want to do with it? And we're entitled to do anything with our pain actually, because no one can tell us how to respond. But what is better for those people who are yet to be born? What is better for those who are currently in the system, who need our support, who our empty words don't really comfort them at night when they're alone? What can we do to make sure that at least whilst these negative things were happening, we were also building? And I think that's what we are trying to do whilst honouring everything that has already been built. So we would probably say, there's no way we're on the first floor. If this is like a 50 towers, we're maybe floor 8 or 10. And not to say that like, obviously 50 we can get there, but it's to acknowledge so much. This is built on knowledge that has come before us. So when you see this, please do see your stories in it, and also just think about the people that were archiving and dedicating their work and their lives to this, for us to have something to talk about and to build from.
Thank you. Just hearing you all reflect, I think it really grounds us in how this is so much bigger than us. Like the experiences that shaped the blueprint came from people in the room, but the vision and the mission goes beyond, and I think that's really beautiful. So for the second question, reflecting on the things our community imagined together during the seed phase, what are the visions for healing our communities you feel most hopeful about?
There's so much that we couldn't even contain in this small document because we wanted to make it accessible, so we didn't want to make it too long. I want to say the first version was like 45 pages. This one of A4. This one is like maybe 40 pages of A5. So there's a lot that is in there, but it's in my heart from the conversations and discussions that we had. And something in those visions was also like the dreaming space. That is also part of the vision. We actually need space and time in our community to imagine what we can create. And the seed phase was part of that for us, that we had some time to like, if we can build and create anything, what is that gonna look like? There was a lot of that process that was pulling the seeds of work that's already happening. And so this is not reinventing the wheel, this is pulling together a lot of the work that's already being done to support communities, or advocacy that's already out there and being campaigned about in terms of support that our communities need. And then also some other ideas around what we can create. Me personally, something I feel really, really passionate about that's in our community imaginings in this blueprint is us to be able to resource community healing justice centers. Why that is a powerful vision for me is that the word justice has obviously been co-opted to mean something different. And that's why we rebel by not calling it the criminal justice system, we call it the criminal legal system, because we need to reclaim what justice actually means. For us to have a community justice center, that's about our version of justice and us being able to create that in our communities. But adding healing in that as well is very, very powerful. And we envision the kind of spaces that could be intergenerational, spaces for our community to come, to gather, to rest, to be resourced, to be nourished, to be fed, to have their needs met, to also be supported with the issues that they're facing in trying to deal with these systems as well, and to be a peer support, to be able to access the care of one another. We have so little space today. It feels really such a shame because I know that our previous generations had a little more access to some physical space and there has been a decline. And so part of our movement is to reclaim that. We do need physical space. We do need to come together in person. We can't do everything online. That's not gonna work. We need to feel each other. There's an intimacy in the work that we're doing that's really, really important. We need to hug each other sometimes, and we need our youth to be able to come and gather with our elders and adults and everybody in between, and there to be a safe space for us to do that and do the work we need to do and the life that we need to live together. So the community healing and justice centers is a vision I feel really, really called to.
Yeah, I echo all of that, and I think that, yeah, one of my favorite parts of the blueprint is the section where we're talking about different things we can imagine. And that came out of a conversation that we had at the end of one of our member gatherings, actually, and we were just sat in the room, and it was the end of quite a long day, and we ended the day by just saying, imagine if we, and everyone went around in the circle and just shared, what they could imagine, what they would love to imagine that we could build to actually truly heal our communities and make people feel held and cared for, and what would real justice look like. And out of that space, it was a really emotional space, but out of that came a lot of the things that you see in the blueprint. And all of them really resonate with me. Lots of the conversations we had around what we could resource for young people definitely connected with me, and I think these systems that we're all socialized within and brought up within, there are children being born every day who are set on a path to be brought through these same systems. So every day we have the opportunity to build a system that they can grow up in that is better than the one we have right now and better than the one we grew up in. And I think that's not to disregard all of us who had to go through that system, but it is also hopeful in the sense that it means that every day we have this new opportunity to build something else for our young people to grow up in. And there are already great organizations doing work around this in the education system, groups that have been involved in this work also, Kids of Colour, who I think aren't here, and No More Exclusions, who we've also been able to support through some of our work. And I think that when we're looking at the things that young people are growing up in today, the education system that excludes them, the criminal legal system that sweeps them up and, ferries them into prisons, I think that we can all see an alternative future for our young people, and all it takes is a bit more care and a bit less punishment. It's really actually not that hard, and it's something we're all capable of providing, and also that everyone deserves, whether you're a young person or older person, everyone deserves to be cared for. But I think the alternatives that we looked at for how young people could receive that care, how could we create spaces for them, how could we have an education system that holds them and looks after them and also teaches them about their own histories, that felt really important to me, because it speaks not just to youth but actually about the whole next generation of people, and it's about looking at the future, and actually what you teach the youth is how you spread the seeds for a better future. And with every new generation that you bring through a system that is slightly less punitive and more care-centered, we get towards a whole society that is less punitive and more care-centered. So all of the things that are written in that blueprint are really hopeful to me, but I think we can do a lot of work with our young people to ultimately grow a society that's better for all of us.
We really did spend a lot of time trying to envision the world that we're trying to build, and we were able to do that. And a lot of our retreats, we said earlier, was we were in nature, and a lot of times that access is taken away from us, especially being in the city. So for us, it's like, what we're asking for is infrastructure, we're asking for buildings, we're asking for the ability to be in nature and actually breathe. I'm going to actually root it into my experience with Harm to Healing. Last year, I ended up losing my cousin in the prison industrial complex. He was medically neglected, and we know that's murder. And a couple of months later, I came to my first Harm to Healing retreat, and that was the first time I was able to breathe. And also, I didn't need to talk about my experience because it was already known in the space. I didn't need to prove that, oh, I'm breathing. I didn't need to prove that I'm hurting. Actually, everyone in that space were able to hold you, and also you're holding other people. And in that space, I was also allowed to envision and imagine what that healing looks like for me, whilst also being materially supported by being in nature. So with the blueprint and the envisioning, it's about actually we're envisioning, but also we're living our politics. It's not just theoretical. It's not like, oh, it's just we're in an ivory tower, we're just in a panel conference. It's actually we're doing it every single day, which is beautiful. So what we're envisioning is also the bare minimum. We're envisioning something that we know this world has, is an abundance of resources and infrastructure and community and collective healing that's being taken away from us, and our imagination is being taken away from us. So what we're saying is actually give us the bare minimum, and also give us an abundance of what we deserve, which is each other. So yeah, so I wanna just root it back into the envisioning that we're doing isn't to be just for the future generation. We're doing it for the future generation, but also we're doing it for each other. We're also holding each other. We're not disposable in this liberation process. We're not disposable whilst we're organising, and that's beautiful about Harm to Healing, is that you don't even need to utter the word of I'm breathing. You're already held, which I think that's a part of the envisioning, allowing us to envision each other. So yeah, that's what we're doing.
I'm particularly looking forward to our political direction and our advocacy, obviously, you know what I mean? I think because there's this perception that black people are not political, or we are the recipients of politics, not the architects of it, right? And so when we do that, we are obviously on the back foot, but it means that we don't get to build, and we don't get to envision, and we don't get to create from design to implementation. But what I'm excited about with the blueprint is that it makes the whole process political, in the sense of we have different talents, especially in the room, people from the arts, people from capital P, lowercase p, politics, people on the front line, whichever it is, but we can still fight, one battle from different frontiers. And I think if we're able to align and understand what the purpose is behind what we do, we can still enjoy our everyday lives. We can still contribute to the mission in a way that speaks to our own purpose and our own skill set. So I think I'm so excited to see how that comes together to make a world, actually, that is very clear about what justice means, and the fact that we are all basically, the politicians in our world. So I'm really excited for that. And I think second of all, how we capture intersectionality, because I feel as though many of us, obviously, we know gender, black women are not spoken about in the prison industrial complex. There are so many different intersections, but I feel like we are still learning ourselves. And I'm excited for us to bring everyone along with us, making sure we bring our LGBTQ family along with us. And not necessarily because we need to make it the capital P, but what we're saying in Harm to Healing is that no one gets left behind. It's not about preference, it's not about your religious beliefs, it's not about where you live or where you come from. What we're saying is that none of us deserve the heavy-handedness of the state. And so what your personal issues are, you go and have that in your room in the dark and you speak to your mirror and you figure that out. But the only way we can be different from them is to do things differently. And if we feel as though we can start segregating and saying, you don't belong, it's a slippery slope. Yeah. You know, so we want to make sure, I'm excited that the blueprint is very clear, or will become more clear as we make sure, and we also learn and reflect and invite people along, because we haven't got all the answers. So I'm excited to also see what we haven't written or we haven't articulated, and that's where we invite everyone here to make sure that you keep us on our toes and say, hey, what does this mean? So yeah, so that's what I'm excited for.
Thank you all so much. Just hearing your reflections, I think it really grounds us in the fact that there's so much wisdom and knowledge in the room. We can do so much, we're so powerful, we just need the space and resources. Thank you. So for the next part of today, we really wanted to open the ground to hear some reflections from our members. So the floor's to you. Would anyone like to share any reflections on how they found the process of being part of Harm to Healing, or their reflections on the blueprint so far?
Hi, could you hear me? Yeah. Hi, I'm Marcia Rigg. Some of you may know me in the room, and I'm an activist and campaigner following the death of my brother Sean Rigg in police custody. It's actually going to be 18 years in August, and I can't believe it's 18 years. But along those 18 years, I met some great people, and some of them are in this room, and they're the members of Harm to Healing, and they were part of the struggle with me. There's too many in the room for me to mention, but you all know who you are. From 2008 to 2026. And the ones that are still here are the ones that were real, and the ones that really were there to support families like myself and families like my sisters in the room. And Temi came to me one day and said, Marcia, what can we do to make a difference, to make a change, you know, for the UFFC families? And we met, and that was over 2 years ago. So I'm just here to say thank you, not just you, Temi, but all the other sisters and brothers that was in this, because we're gonna win, period. Thank
you so much, Marcy. Would anyone else like to share any reflections?
Hi, I'm Susan, and I am part of United Families, and also I'm a member of the Harm to Healing group. When I first heard about it, I heard Marcia talking about Harm to Healing quite a lot, and I was really intrigued to find out what it was all about. And over time, it's kind of slowly been revealed. I was invited into one of their meetings, and where, as I think it was Sarah said about being invited to dream, that was the first time somebody had asked me a question like that. So I thought really big outside the box, but really it wasn't what I thought it was. So since I've been more involved, this project has evolved, and it's taken up quite a lot of my time that I'm really happy about. I have been involved in a lot of things over the years in the communities, and a lot of community development work, and I've never seen anything like this before. So it grabbed my attention straight away. I've been able to have it's been impactful, it's been emotional, but it's been worthwhile, and it has been healing for me, in small doses. And I felt the wraparound kind of love and care from everybody, and that's what's needed, because that's what's missing from the communities. The government's agenda is to break everything down, and we're here to put everything back and more. We know what those solutions are amongst us. You just need the right people, and we're all in this room, so we can definitely do this. So I'm proud to be part of it, and I brought my sister along, I brought friends along, so we're all in it together, and I'm very optimistic for the future, and I'll always go out of my way for everybody. There's a lot of trust in the group that's been right from the outset, and like was said before, we already know what all the issues are. We all do, and all the problems. So we don't want that outside interference. We're building something that is quite unique. So I'm proud to be part of it, and I hope that as the membership, grows, other people will come on board. It's going to be great.
Thank you, Susan. And I think even for myself, something that has felt so powerful and inspiring about the experience has been that we're an intergenerational group. And I think it's quite rare that you have that, where it's like you can really draw on the wisdom of your elders and also your youngers as well. And that's been a real beauty of the spaces we've been in. Is there Stephen? If we can get a mic over here.
Hi everyone. I think for me, particularly, just everything about harm to healing is right grounded in the name itself. The both terms, the harm and the healing. Because I grew up in a country where both things existed. One, harm existed before, and healing came after, but slowly. So I can really attest to the possibility and the hope of healing itself existing. And I think that's what drew me closer to it, the proximity to the fact that I've seen something similar happening on a larger scale, and yet, people try to bring themselves back together to heal and then move on, and I would love to be in that space as well, to experience the same thing happening again. I think, that's my comment.
Thank you, Stephen.
Hi everyone. I guess a reflection for me is one that I don't get to talk about that often, because often those that know me and have organised with me know that often I'm organising. Well, actually, I don't have to feel like I'm organising in isolation. And when I look around the members, a lot of them have been organising for very, very, very long. And some of them I have had the honour to work with for many years, but we get to do it together. That warms my heart, and it's not very often that I have joy in the work and where I feel held whilst doing the work. And that's the core of what we're doing here. And of course, I know it's been said time and time again, I'm gonna say it again, you're all a part of that now, by force. Who else wants to talk?
Hello everybody. I'm Jermaine Phillip, the mother of Adrian MacDonald, who were killed by Staffordshire police. And harm to healing, I've been harmed. But you know what? Harm to healing. I'm on my way to be healed. I've met some wonderful people that I never thought that I would have met. And trust. Trust is one of the things that I've had to go through when my son was killed. Ham to Healing. What a lovely name, Ham to Healing. Because I'm on the way to be healed, my family, by these wonderful people, everybody here in this room, because we all one family now. And as everybody says, I would have loved to have people like you with me when I was going through my troubles, my harm. But instead I've had to fight the system on my own. And with fighting the system, I always think to myself, I would like changes. I would never, ever want anything to happen to any one of us or anybody in this room. What happened to my son? Okay, he should have been here today. He would have been 45-year-old. This blueprint, we're going to do it. We need the community, we need the families, we need all the people with good experience, everybody. Everybody's got experience in different ways. But we need to come together and we need to let this thing happen. We need all the therapists, all the lovely doctors, or we need the support. We need all the support. And we're gonna get it, and we're gonna do it.
Thank you so much. I think just hearing some of our wider membership speak, it really speaks to the fact that people already have the ideas, but this work needs to be resourced. There's organisations up and down the country that are already doing amazing work, but often from lived experience or because of duty, but often without the resources that they need to be able to do it in the way that they'd like to, or to reach all the people that they'd like to. And a key reason that Harm to Healing exists is to help move funding, support and infrastructure to organisations that are already doing this work. In our seed phase, we're really proud that we were able to redistribute 140k to community organisations. And we're just getting started. One of the organisations that we were really proud to resource was Poetic Unity, which is an amazing organisation based in Brixton. And up next, I'm really pleased to be able to welcome to the stage Tariq, who is a member of Poetic Unity and who's going to perform for us.
No mic, son, I've got to hold the mic. Good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
Good evening, good evening, good evening. It is a pleasure to be here. I feel very, very inspired. I feel, as a young person, part of a legacy just being in this environment. And I find that a lot of the time, we go to these spaces and we have our values, we have our opinions, but sometimes we don't recognize the power of the moment that we're standing in at the moment. And yeah, I feel very privileged, very grounded in this moment. So yeah, another round of applause, please, for Harm to Healing. So as I was hearing the speeches, I was like, great. The poems that I've got, I feel touch on a lot of what Harm to Healing is standing for. But I'm representing Poetic Unity today, and I want everybody just to remember the power of expression and using your words, because I feel as a community our words have been taken from us. And I feel poetry and expression and art, Poetic Unity, what we believe in is reclaiming our narrative through our words. Okay, so poetry is not just for entertainment, but it's a creative education for you to feel whilst you learn as well. Okay? But I'm rambling. Let's get into it, yeah? Cool. Been to a poetry event before? Raise your hand, yeah? When you like something, what do you do? Clicky. Clicky. Yeah? Can I get some clicks, please? And then if you really like something, can I get a Yeah, man, we're here for joy too, right? All right then. Before you judge us by our choices, look at the options at our table. For when you see faces on a T, you start to question if you're able. We was programmed to compete, so I've been channeled like his cable. With episodes of being killed, so a statistic is my label when it's stuck to me. So many forks in our road, you can say this cutlery is cutting me. Knives in our back, I said this cutlery is cutting me. I'm judged by silver spoons and they're spending all our currency. Drowning in my black current, deep waters is my currency. Why work to be rewarded when the system tries to punish me? Dirty politicians, I just wish that they were coming clean. They erased all my options, do you see why this is rubbing me? Will I make it out the hood? Will I make it out alive? I could embody being a sir, but that don't mean that I'll survive because it's war. And I'm conflicted. I feel the weight on my shoulders as we fight for the same pound. He's delivering all that food, doing orders like it's takeout, but if it's rest you want, then you know that he will stake out, see. I can't opt out of my options, it's not optional for me. I want to see my dream work, but that's impossible for me. Hairy situation is in my follicles, you see, for I was raised in the end, so it's the chronicles for me, so. Who's gonna make the ends meet? I'm from a place where man has nothing and will still find a way to envy. Trust it. Where to be 6 foot can leave a friendship group empty, looking at gravestones wishing God could have sent me to take all this pain away. Have you ever battled being close, crashing out with a crossbar and waiting for him at his post? Thinking about my future, knowing that I burnt the loaf. For the next time that I see him, I know he has to turn to toast. My chickens have come to roast. That's winner, winner, chicken dinner. Like brothers, we love the breast, but his favorite piece is my liver. Thinking about these corrupted ways, knowing that I'll have to mirror. For it's kill or be killed, and I will always choose to be the killer. I'm a product of my environment. And this shit ain't sustainable. Trauma and recycling like Jenga, we were made to fall, and the blocks are our father figures. Thrown when we were made to rule. Education can build a brain, but the man cannot be framed at school, so the ends have our fathers missing. And we hold them to be accountable. The end is where we started from, knowing we had to mount the fall. I'm judged by silver spoons, so I'm hungry to be powerful. They said drill is the reason why, but the hammer is the power tool. So I can't opt out of my options, it's not optional for me. Want to see my dream work, but that's impossible for me. Hairy situation is in my follicles, you see, for I was raised for a weekend, so it's the chronicles for me. Poem, first one. I wrote that one for a short film called One Brother, and it was about a young black man who's come out of prison and trying to find his way, and he's reformed, and he's trying to get a job, and he's not getting any jobs. And in him not getting any jobs and trying again, he gets pulled closer and closer and closer back to criminality. So it shows again the structures of coming out of prison and trying to reshape yourself. We all make mistakes. Some people just don't get caught for them and happen to learn on the way. But some people get caught, some people have to do time, some people have to learn. But it shows that there's not a system or structure in there to prevent them from going back again. So that poem was for that. This poem I finished on Monday. So you're gonna have to allow me, yeah? I'm not gonna do the phone thing, but I'm gonna talk it very slow, cause I feel every time I try to practice it today. But when Temi and Ryan asked me to perform, I haven't been able to finish this poem all year. As he asked me and said, this is the themes, I said, what? Finish that, yeah? I finished that, yeah? So, just wish I could remember it. Yeah, all right then, let's try it. Let's try it. Me and my melanation have always been skywalkers. But they didn't want that knowledge to survive. That's why they put a plague on the way that we shape our minds and embrace our lives. I learned about Black Death, but no, hundreds of its kind, me and my melanation. Me and my melanation, ironically, have been the subject of subjugation. Graded for testing and interrogation, but never questioned our representation in. Misinformation, I soon came to realize that maybe the target of their aim was always for me to miss education. See, me and my melanation even had to watch how they colored our shade. Even though there's no light without dark, but there's dark without light, but it's blacks that are subjected to colorless ways, me and my melanation. Me and my melanation sacrificed our intonation to get intonations, then suffered cultural assimilation, discarded information, racist retaliation, and self-hating generation. So now me and my melanations don't even believe our claims. And I've been raised to believe it's only water that rained and that the elders of our bloodline only died in vain. But how could it die in vain when it exists in mine? So I find it crazy that people think of Dr. Umar when they say black people were once kings and queens. They forget that the lengths people went to be a ruler means to line their pockets, they would shame our genes. So when I think of a king, I think of a very distant future, but my past was removed from his story, and the truth that's used is his story. I find it rich that mine was told so poorly. Because being black and beautiful and knowing our lives matter is not because of EDI. Let me say, I'm gonna run that up again anyway. I said being black and beautiful and knowing our lives matter is not because of EDI or George Floyd or tokenistic policy favorable for globalized business environments. It's not because of white guilt or European enlightenment, where that system only served savior complex entitlement. It's not because of sympathy or empathy that they remember me, when my ancestors died for a vision that they would never see, framed as an enemy, death or penitentiary. They want me to be grateful that the world is now into me, forgetting black is beautiful beyond European literacy. Literally, we've been great since the beginning of time. Because before they learned how the clock could tick and talk, we were influencers who put reality on lines. Because by nature, we are poets and scribes. Our villages raise a seed to a life. Resilience is from a seed to this life. I can see in this life we're still underestimated. Because the blacker the berry, the sweeter the juice, but how fixed is my son's pride? See, I'm upset that they made us think that the ground is the place where our sons lie, and that sports is the only place where our sons shine, and that the streets is the only place where our sons die. Don't let them leave you divided. Don't let them talk about 400 years of slavery, then use your development as a silver lining. Don't let them talk about democracy and civilized, when they're the reason that the world is always fighting. Because how can you let a people who enslave their race tell us how to run ours and define it? The world needs reminded that we had Mali, Abyssinia, Kush. Yeah? Mali, Abyssinia, Kush. Congo, Ashanti, Benin, Bantu, the Maroons and Timbuktu. So when Timbuktu, tell him that you're a skywalker and that the force has always been with you like Mace Windu. You are the prince to a purple rain. And if we knew our bloodline, we would die 1,000 times before we ever chose to give away our names. Because we lost our last ones way before we hit the altar. And you buried my mummy's tongue like it was Tutankhamun. So now, I speak poetry like your scholars. I use my voice as an instrument you wish you could tune. Trapped in the depths of my melanated cells is... Trapped in the depths of my melanated cells is royalty ready for me to call on. So pick yourself up, black child. because it's a holy grail that he was born from. Skywalker. Yes, people, words, take your words back, yeah? This is what they want us to do, forget that we are Skywalkers. Didn't want that to survive, okay? I've been I Am Tariq. Please, first and foremost, connect to Harm to Healing, that's the first one. Then, second, connect to Poetic Unity, yeah? And if you like me enough, please connect with me. I go by I Am Tariq on Instagram, IAM_TARIQQ.
Appreciate you so much. We appreciate your art. We appreciate your voice. We appreciate you, Poetic Unity. We love you. We appreciate you. And yeah, I'm excited to see more of our work blend and collaborate and all them things there. So we're coming to the end of the evening. And I said this earlier and I'll say it again. Y'all are all involved already. You're by fire, by force. You guys are part of the movement. And I wanted to land this by saying that the systems we have today are a result of choices. It is a choice to criminalize and imprison children. It is a choice to have police as the first responders to mental health crises. It is a choice to have policies that enable joint enterprise. These are choices. And today I want you to know that you have a choice and we have the choice to build something different. We can choose healing. We can choose a new world, a new vision. And I really hope that Harm to Healing can drive our community's solutions and our visions forward. And I feel really hopeful about that. I want everyone to know as well that there's a role for you. You might be sitting here today thinking, oh, what's my role? There's a role for you. For the artists like Tariq, there's art, the creatives, the poets, the musicians. We need your political poetry, your activist arts. We need that in the movement. We need the frontline practitioners, we need the community supporters, we need the therapists, we need the healers. We need the educators. We need the organizers, the ones who are willing to be frontline protesting and advocating for us. We need the allies. We need you. We need funders. We need money. We need resource to do this work. We need the dreamers. We need the visionaries. We need everyone. We need the community to stand up and stand with us. The community needs us. Families need us. Our youth need us. The babies need us. They deserve a better world, and we're responsible for building that. So I hope that you leave here today with a sense of responsibility, because we're not going to build this on our own. We're not. We can't. We need you. We need every single person. I need you to tell a friend to tell a friend. You better post a picture of me right now on Instagram. You better tag Harm to Healing right now. I'm looking kind of cute too. But run it up. Tell a friend. Tell them to follow Harm to Healing. Tell them about the community work that we're doing. Tell them about the visions. Tell them about the hope that was in this room tonight. Tell them about the creativity that was shared tonight. Tell them what we're trying to build together. Spread the word. We want you involved. There should be a QR code that's about to fly up behind me, I hope. And I want you to scan that QR code. It will also be posted on our social media as well. So you can sign up, share your details. We will give you more information and keep you updated with the different opportunities that we'll share, so you can keep in contact with us, so you can know what's coming and be involved and be a part of the movement. Again, on the survey, there's space to share. What expertise do you have? What skills do you have? What can you offer to the movement? The little things, the big things, it all matters. So please, 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 sign up, share your details. Members are going to be moving around the space, talking to you all. Ask us questions, come and talk to us. And yeah, just connect, man. Vibes, Bubble gonna run tune. Our tech guy gonna run tune. I don't know if his food being packed away, is it?
No, there's a tray of jerk chicken left.
Aye. Okay, there's jerk chicken left for everyone that didn't eat. Yeah, go fill your bellies. And yeah, thank you so. I just want to say thank you so much. Thank you so much for coming, for showing up. This is community. This is solidarity. And yeah, big blessings and love from the Harm to Healing team.